drama. This is 15 years ago. I made a mistake. I didn't even know I had done anything wrong. I had written a sketch that had the word. I ain't doing trans jokes no more. You know what I'm gonna do tonight? Tonight, I'm doing all handicap jokes.
Dave Chapelle is back, and as always, he's not holding anything back. If there's one thing you can bet on, is that Chapelle will speak his mind, no matter whose feathers got ruffled. And wow, he's stirring up a storm this time. His newest Netflix special, The Dreamer, feels like a hammer aimed right at the core of woke culture, and Hollywood is absolutely losing it. But why does Chapelle's humor spark so much outrage? Let's dive in and uncover what makes him so unstoppable. Before we jump in, could I ask you a little favor? If you're enjoying this content, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Over 98% of our viewers watch without subscribing, and while it's totally free to you, it means a lot to us. So, did you click that subscribe button? Amazing. Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to it. So, let's clear this up. Dave Chapelle is way too big to be cancelled. He knows it, Hollywood knows it, and that's exactly what makes them so nervous.
Americans generally respect one another's beliefs, even if they don't share those beliefs. I know I do. I respect everybody's beliefs except Amish people.
In a world where everyone's tiptoeing around, terrified of saying the wrong thing, Chapelle charges in like a bull in a china shop. And honestly, that's exactly the vibe we need right now. Everyone's so caught up in not offending anyone that it's almost impossible to say anything real. But Chapelle, he's got zero patience for that. He's here to call out the nonsense, and if that rubs you the wrong way, well, that's on you.
That's why I don't be coming out doing comedy all the time, because y'all is the worst motherfuckers I've ever tried to entertain in my life.
With The Dreamer, he's whipped up a storm among woke critics who are calling it everything from offensive to out of line and beyond. But here's the thing, that's exactly what makes people love him. He's not playing by their rules. He's here to break every single one of them. Remember when he released The Closer?
I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those that they got.
That special sparked actual protests right outside Netflix's headquarters. People were out there demanding it be pulled, but Netflix didn't budge, and neither did Chapelle. He didn't say sorry, didn't retreat, and doubled down instead, taking on woke culture with an even sharper edge in his latest show.
I ain't doing trans jokes no more. You know what I'm gonna do tonight? Tonight, I'm doing all handicap jokes.
One of the biggest viral moments from The Dreamer is Chapelle's story about meeting Jim Carrey during the filming of Man on the Moon.
I wanted to meet Jim Carrey, and I had to pretend this was Andy Kaufman all afternoon. And he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see.
At first, it seems like a regular story, just one comedian talking about meeting another famous comedian. But then Chapelle totally turns it upside down. He starts describing how bizarre it was that Carrey stayed in character as Andy Kaufman the whole time. And then, bam.
He was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
Then comes the punchline, that's how trans people make me feel. The crowd went wild. Laughter, applause, cheers, the whole ordeal. And predictably, the woke left was up in arms, calling the joke transphobic, insensitive, and demanding Netflix step in. But Chapelle stood his ground, making it clear that nobody's going to tell him what he can or can't joke about. And honestly, isn't that what comedy's all about? Pushing limits, making people squirm a bit, and getting them to think. And if you thought that joke was bold, just wait for his LeBron James bit. In classic Chapelle style, he dives headfirst into the debate, posing a question. What if LeBron James decided to transition?
Say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or
would he stay in the NBA, or would he have to play in the WNBA, where, as Chapelle jokes, he'd probably score an 840 points a game? The audience went crazy with laughter.
When I watch sports, I be thinking about, think about, okay, say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
But as usual, Chapelle wasn't just trying to be funny. He was taking a bold jab at the absurdity of the woke debate, showing how wild these ideas can look when applied to real-life situations. It's classic Chapelle, using humor to point out the contradictions that everyone's too nervous to mention. And as expected, the joke didn't land well, with a woke crowd who's quickly labeling it transphobic and started calling for his cancellation.
I said what I said, and boy, I heard what you said. My God.
But let's be honest, Chapelle isn't here to please anyone. He's just holding up a mirror to society, letting us laugh at how bizarre it all is. And if his stand-up wasn't enough, Chapelle recently made appearances on The Joe Rogan Experience. If you know anything about Joe Rogan, you can imagine the uproar this episode caused in the woke world. Two of the most canceled men in entertainment sitting down to tear apart woke culture, cancel culture, and the sheer madness of today's world.
There's a lot of tone-deaf folks out there that didn't get that. They're out there taking that photo in front of a private jet with a Gucci bag, smiling. Like, hey, this is not the time for that.
Chapelle and Rogan didn't hold back at all. They laughed about how out of hand things have gotten.
Lunatics trying to cancel them.
Yep.
Going after Chapelle, going after Rogan, going after all these different comedians who stood strong, stood their ground.
Chapelle even admitted that he's turned down tons of sponsorship deals because he knows how quickly brands pull their support the second he says something that makes them uncomfortable. For Chapelle, it's never about the money. It's about staying true to his comedy, his voice, and his rights to say what he wants. Together, Chapelle and Rogan represent a growing group of comedians and creators who refuse to be silenced by the and honestly, their conversation on the Joe Rogan Experience was a masterclass in pushing back against cancel culture. They're not just getting by, they're thriving, showing that you can still be wildly successful without bending to the pressures of the world. And it's not just Chapelle and Rogan taking a stand. UFC President Dana White has joined in, backing Chapelle and calling out the woke crowd for trying to cancel one of comedy's greatest legends.
In fact, if you continue with this tone, even if you're right, you'll be very hard to hear.
Dana White, who's never one to steer clear of controversy, praised Chapelle for having the guts to say what everyone else is afraid to. He noted how rare it is in Hollywood to see someone actually stand up to the woke mob and how much courage it takes to keep pushing forward, despite non-stop backlash. White even gave a nod to Netflix for standing by Chapelle during the drama over The Closer. When protesters demanded Netflix take down the special, Netflix held firm, showing the kind of leadership most companies would crumble under. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of support we need more of in today's cancel-happy world.
We're painfully desensitized because we're bombarded by so much information. And then other times I see people, it's a lot to be mad at.
Here's where it gets even more interesting. Chapelle has repeatedly called out cancel culture for what it really is, a game. On the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan described it as a recreational outrage, and he's spot on. People aren't really offended by what Chapelle says. They're just out there, itching for anything to be upset about. They see a chance to cancel someone and they jump on it, whether their outrage is real or not. But Chapelle, he's got their number and isn't buying it. He knows the woke crowd is always hunting for their next target, but he's not about to let them hold him back. That's why he's still here, still cracking people up and still standing strong despite all the hate. So where does that leave Hollywood? Well, they're pretty frustrated. The woke elites don't know what to do with someone like Chapelle. He's too big, too popular, and just too influential to cancel, and it's driving them crazy. They're used to controlling the story, silencing anyone who dares to step out of line. But with Chapelle, they're powerless. He's not apologizing, not giving in, and that's why fans adore him. Hollywood wants to quiet Dave Chapelle, but every time they try, his audience just gets bigger. People are fed up with the woke agenda, tired of being told that what they can and can't laugh at, and Chapelle's giving them exactly what they crave, a comedian who's unafraid to push the limits and say what everyone else is too scared to say. So what's next for Dave Chapelle? Will Hollywood ever figure out how to handle him? Will the woke mob finally succeed in shutting him down? Honestly, I wouldn't count on it. Chapelle is just too big, too fearless, and too determined to be silenced. As long as there's woke culture to poke fun at, you can bet that Dave Chapelle will be right there, standing at the front lines, throwing out punchlines that leave the woke crowd in pieces. But hey, that's just my take. What do you think? Are you on Team Chapelle? Do you think he's got it right by calling out the absurdity of woke culture? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mind of one of comedy's greatest, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Because in a world where free speech feels more fragile every day, we need voices like Dave Chapelle's now more than ever.